Welcome to episode 9 of You've Probably Never Heard of Me, the podcast dedicated to shining a light on the underground artists, creators, and changemakers that the algorithm might skip over. I am your host, Ryan Allen. I'm a Detroit based musician who spent over 2 decades playing in bands like Thunderbirds Are Now, Extra Arms, Big Life, and Speed Circuit. I've made a lot of records and I've met some really talented people over the years that you might not know about yet, but that's what I'm here to fix. Today, my guest is a special one and something that I'm really excited about. Joining me on today's episode is none other than my brother, Scott Allen. Scott is an accomplished songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer, not to mention a very talented visual artist and video editor, and has spent time playing in bands like Red Shirt Brigade, Thunderbirds Are Now with me, and A Big Mess. Most recently, Scott has turned his attention to a solo career, recording synth-heavy confessionals under the moniker Scoffs. After years spent taking a break from music, Scott returned in 2021 with a 9-song self-titled release. Since then, he's released a new album for Big Mess, as well as multiple EPs under the Scoffs name. And he just recently released the gorgeous 3-song EP called Self-Love in July of this year. And he's also in the midst of completing the 4th Big Mess LP, so he's a busy guy. And that will hopefully see the light of day soon. Scott, welcome and thank you for being on your brother's podcast.
I can't believe you know so much about me.
I have the internet and I talk to you sometimes, so that's how it goes. Well, I'm really happy that we decided to do this. Um, the first question that I want to ask you, obviously we're brothers. We've got a lot of shared history growing up in the same house, getting into music. But I want to know, well, like, what is your sort of earliest memories of how music impacted your life? What were some of the things that you were hearing that kind of drew you to music as a kid and eventually kind of inspired you to want to play?
Um, you know, Dad, probably. The Beatles, obviously, but
Your dad is Paul McCartney.
yeah, Paul McCartney, Brad Allen. Um, yeah, no, that's probably it. But more so, probably just hanging out with you and a lot of the guys that you kind of hung out with in the early days, going
Mhm.
to Canada really, and seeing bands like Sloan and Super Friends, and that whole world kind of like opened it up to like be like, oh, it doesn't need to be like this big huge band. They can be
Right,
smaller, they can be just
right.
as good, in a smaller venue or whatever. And that felt accessible then.
Yeah. What about like even earlier than that though? Like when you were younger, can you like access those memories of like hearing certain things? Whether it was like dad listening to the Beatles around the house or like even something from like a cartoon or, just like melodies and like things that like maybe you wouldn't even necessarily say is like I bought this CD or what it just like the sound of music, the like attraction of music, the sort of pull, the magnetic pull of melodies. Like, is there anything from like really young that you can kind of like remember being inspiring to you?
um yeah, I mean, it sounded like noise late at night sometimes coming from the basement. And
Yeah.
that was why am I going to bed and there's this loud music. That didn't happen for very long, I should be fair to him, but um that was probably the beginning of
You talk about
understanding.
dad's bands playing in like the
Yeah,
basements. Yeah.
dad's band playing in the basement, and
Yeah.
um writing songs with Clay and everything. But
Hmm.
um I don't know, I think it really just came from, probably, I don't know. I mean, it's a weird thing because I really don't. It just kind of feels like it's always been there. I
Right.
don't really know
Yeah.
how to um, remember.
Hmm.
I think some of my first like visions of memory is like seeing the home we grew up in. in the basement and going like, "What's that?" and hitting it and like hearing the notes ping pong off of each other. Like, but I also felt like I was too young to kind of like touch his equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
right, right, right.
um, but I don't know. I mean, that's probably it for the most part.
Well, so like, after the exposure to music and kind of like you said, it being like always around us when we were kids. Um, do you have like early memories of like, playing and like being drawn to play an instrument? Like I had guitar lessons, right, as a kid, but I feel like you came at music a little bit from more of an abstract perspective, where it wasn't like, here, Scott, like we're gonna get you guitar lessons or piano lessons. It seemed a lot more like you kind of like being fearless and just starting to like experiment in your own way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I played. I don't know. There was like a couple synths down here.
Hmm.
I remember like playing with those, but I think really when it started to connect, honestly, was when um, you were coming back from college.
Hmm.
And I mean, I played music, I played guitar. That was kind of what I gravitated to probably first.
Right.
And I've never been a very good guitar player, but I was like, that's the instrument you play to like write songs.
Hmm.
Uh, but it didn't really connect with me very well. And then when you started coming home from college with the guys from Red Shirt Brigade. And when I started doing that, when I started picking up the keyboard that was kind of like left there, I wasn't looking at notes. I was only looking at colors
Hmm.
because when you guys started practicing and you were like, "Well, come play synth on some of these songs," I took little circled dots from like for like garage sales.
It's
Like
like from like Michael's like a
yeah,
craft store sticker. Yeah.
yeah, and then and then each song had a different color.
Yeah. You
So
put
that
like
was
the blue sticker on the C note or whatever, and then
well,
where the
it
root
was
is.
more like because it was all they were all like melodies. They were not like
Hmm.
chords. More like a lot of melodies, a lot of shift pitching,
Hmm.
modulating, and stuff like that. And that because that was all I could understand. But yeah, it was the color pattern that it wasn't the C chord or the A chord. It was just blue, yellow, pink,
Yeah.
and green. Or
And that's
whatever.
kind of what I mean about like abstract ways of like coming to music. And I feel like people think that there's kind of only one way to do these things. It's like, oh, like take lessons or you get like a guitar book that like has the notes in it and that's how you learn how to play. But like there's a lot of ways that you can obviously come to these things. And like I
Yeah,
think for you it was like, okay, like I might not like have the like technical knowledge at the age of 14 when you started playing in Red Shirt Brigade, but
yeah.
I need some kind of pattern to follow here. And like I wish I could like show a photograph of or a video of that actual keyboard with those like stickers on it because it was such a like I don't know, like it just was like to me like an indication of like we were just all trying to sort of figure it out at the same time and didn't really know what we were doing, which is kind of leading into my next question, which is, um, if you've listened to this podcast, before, you might have picked up on the fact that like I was in a band with Scott in like the late 90s, early 2000s called Red Shirt Brigade. And you joined the band a little bit after Trevor and Paul and I started playing together. But, you joined at the age of 14, which is obviously like pretty wild. I'm curious, like, what do you remember about those early days of joining the band and playing shows and kind of, eventually doing what we did, which was, kind of culminated in like going out to Seattle and recording our record. Like, what are your memories of those like early days as like a 14-year-old kid trying to play with these older guys, who barely knew each other as it was?
I mean, it felt safe in the basement,
Hmm.
right? Because it was like, it was home, and you could, I felt like I was able to kind of communicate with people, and like, I was embraced by you guys.
Hmm.
And then when we started, like, I just didn't really, I mean, I went and saw bands, right? But then when you like go and be a band at that early of an age, it is kind of scary, and it's a little, I was nervous, I think. I mean, the first show I think I ever played was at the IO in Detroit, and we opened up for We Were Gazi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was the first Red Shirt show that you played with us? Crazy.
Yeah, which is weird because when we hung out with the five guys the other day, Tim was telling me about him, and it was like, anyways. But um, I was like, what is that? It was like two girls and a really like skinny like weirdo on stage being weird, and and I was immediately attracted to all of it,
Hmm.
but I didn't understand it either. I was just like, okay, this is like many things, um, all at once. That's Mick Jagger. That's, whatever. It's like all happening all at once.
Yeah.
Again, feeling accessible, feeling like I can do this too. Like if it can go from here and all the way kind of down here and maybe upwards, like that's what it is. And um, so yeah, I mean, it was a little nervous. I was nervous at first, but once I just started jumping up and down and just like not caring, I mean, it became more fun.
And I think anybody who saw that band or Thunderbirds later, in those days will remember how, entertaining and energetic you were on stage. Like, where do you think that kind of came from for you? Because
I
you were
mean,
also like an incredibly good musician and, you know, really have like a special grasp on melody and composition. And, even at that point in time, like we were kind of able to figure out how to make all these things fit together that were sort of happening simultaneously. But, on the flip side, you were extremely, um, captivating live, and I don't know if like those bands would have captured people's attention if that wasn't an element, like we did. So like
yeah.
where do you feel like that kind of performance, like the commitment to that performance came from?
Well, I mean, probably once I started doing it, it like, there was a shift in like the people engaging with us.
Hmm.
So it probably comes from that a little bit, but more, you know, it's kind of more like looking at art, really, in a lot of ways. Like being attracted to like, I was really into like Romeo Bearden as a kid, and a lot of like abstract type art, Rothko and stuff like that. Things that like created space. And I felt like when I was playing in those bands, a keyboard is only when you're a guitar band first, and you're like the auxiliary, whatever I'm trying to say. Um,
Auxiliary.
yeah, keyboard player or synth player or whatever, you you don't want to overplay. So like there were pockets of time where I was like, I don't want to play here, and I'm equating it to art because you want to leave space
Right.
on paintings and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I thought about it too. Was like I want to leave this part alone and let that just kind of sit. And then
Right.
what am I supposed to do? Just like stand there?
Mhm.
So instead of standing there, it's like, okay, well, I can add to like the percussion by just playing tambourine and stuff like that. And I equated that to like Motown. So it was
Mhm.
like I was like, okay, well, I can do some tambourine stuff that will have a sensibility of a lot of the songs from Detroit, Motown. So I think it's a little bit of all that,
Right.
um, and also kind of being bored a little bit, and just wanting to people have fun,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also think that like when we were going to shows around then, a lot of those bands, were like performers, even like the emo stuff that we saw, like the Promise Ring or something, or I wouldn't call the Dismemberment Plan like an emo band, but like those bands that we were starting to get into around that time, they put on really good shows, and they were like super entertaining. And
Yeah,
like the music and the performance seemed to kind of like be, equals with one another, and it wasn't like, I mean, later in life, I saw the Strokes and they just stood there and they played their really great songs, but there's nothing happening,
sure.
and I'm just like, oh, I paid to watch them just stand around and play, and I feel like, no matter if you like thought our music sucked or you thought it was awesome, like there was no way that you couldn't like go to those shows and walk away and saying like, at the very least, we were probably entertained, and you probably wouldn't forget it. I think you were a huge part of that. But um, what
Thanks.
about, kind of like the flip side of it, like when we were in the studio with Chris Waller from Death Cab, for example, like that was not about performance in terms of like a visual thing, right? And I think when you listen to Home of the Cannon Saints, which is the full length that we put out, obviously like each person playing on it had their own kind of like moment to shine and like was very integral to it. But there's a lot of stuff that you were doing, um and a lot of like, access to like not just the synths that we brought with us, but other instruments that were in the studio too. And I'm just kind of curious, like, how did you feel kind of being in that situation as a younger person with this person that like we at the time looked up to, making a fully analog record, like we had used no computers on this record,
Uh,
and just having like access to all this equipment and all these things that like, allowed you maybe like the opportunity to open up that experimental part of your brain.
yeah. I mean, I it well, it was all very exciting because um, when Chris Walla from Death Cab for Cutie did ask us to record, we were
Mhm.
in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we played at a house show. And this was before they were anything. And Chris just I think he bought that studio, and that studio was a place for a lot of bands, especially in like the grunge era of things, like
Right.
Nirvana's Bleach was recorded there. I know that for
Hmm.
sure. I think some
Yep.
Sleater Kenny stuff was done there,
Hmm. Yep. Built to
which is later.
Spills,
Yeah,
first couple
yeah,
records.
yeah. So there was and I think you told me that, like you knew that. So like when we were driving up there, I was like, oh my God, we're going to be a part of this like history of this place. But when
Hmm.
he asked, it was kind of like a shocking thing, right? Because, in my eyes, I didn't, again, it was like they have a CD and they have vinyl.
Yeah.
So they must be like something big,
Right.
you
We're these
know?
just scrappy idiots with
Right.
stickers on our keyboard.
Right. And that was like huge. So,
Right.
I mean, I can get to your question about the recording process, but like it was, I just think the experience on the way up there was a little bit more interesting because we did book a tour.
Mhm.
Um, um, and I think we played, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 shows. I don't remember, but I
Yeah,
mean,
on the way there and back. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we met a lot of people during that time. It really, I mean, that was the first time I was like, this is what this is, and so, a lot of late nights, a lot of things that I saw that I shouldn't have seen at 13, 14 years old.
Well, you weren't 14 then. You were like
How
18.
was I?
Si-
Okay.
17, 18, something like that.
Okay. Well,
Because
yeah,
I
I mean,
was I was 21, so 17.
okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I was young when we recorded there.
Still young. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, but no, getting there and being in that room, I was more interested in watching Chris like do what he was doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like I already had the parts, and I already had like the keyboard stuff, and there was a lot of like preset stuff that I set up on like my Roland Groove Box
Oh
that
yeah.
we used. Um,
Dr.
but
Sample.
but there was other stuff. There was like Junos there, and
Hmm.
which I used.
There was a ham in there,
Um,
I think, too,
there
right?
was a there was an organ that we ended up
Hmm.
using.
Hmm.
Um, there was one thing that we did with Chris. He actually got involved where he wanted us to all go around the room and hold tambourines. Like,
Hmm.
remember that?
Did we
And
like
like,
hit them on chairs or something?
yeah, hit them on chairs and on
Yeah.
floors and stuff like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, so he's creating space. So it was like for me, it was like the recording was cool, but I was trying to understand why he was doing that.
Do you feel like it planted a seed at all for you to want to pay more attention to production and like
Yeah.
not just the song itself, but like the adornments that kind of accompany a song that make a song special, you know?
Yeah, because yes, because I mean, like I look to all my like favorite records, be Pet Sounds being one of them, and it's like
Sure.
you can't recreate that really live.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, something like Sergeant Pepper, same deal. You probably can now, but during that time you couldn't. And so, um, I mean, I like going and seeing bands play live, but I love listening to the records more because there's a because I love the sonic sound of it. I love what it's like. How do they like? Why do they make the decision to make the snare sound like that? Or
Yeah.
like that's what I'm listening to. I mean, I'll listen
Right.
to the song, but then I'll listen to it again and like from a production type approach, which is probably why I and Dad being downstairs every day and or whenever he was recording a song and watching him do the
Hmm.
same thing. It was just kind of like, okay, you see that as really young, and then you see that a little older, and you're kind of more on your own. But I mean, there was a lot of other stuff in that, a lot of pizza, a lot of there was video games in the back room. I think we were playing like Nintendo something. There's that big Frank Black poster, teenager of the year. There was like a
Hmm.
Subway poster hung up there, and I was like, that is the weird. Who is that weirdo?
Yeah.
I didn't know who it was,
Yeah.
but now I do, and I love that record. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Well, we listened to that the other day on the way home from Grand Rapids. Um, okay, so I think one thing is that needs to be like kind of called out is again like this experience that you had, with Red Shirt Brigade started when you were 14, kind of ended around 17, 18, I would say. And after that, like I feel like you went through kind of a little bit of a transformation, personally, which to me kind of culminated in you deciding to make a solo record. So in 2002, you put out Scott Allen and the Breakdance,
I completely.
which
I mean,
is
I kind of forgot, but
not something like a whole lot of 17, 18-year-old kids are doing, is putting out their first solo record and then putting a band together and playing it. But it's called The Selfish Sweetness. And I'm just kind of curious, like if you could put yourself back into the mindset of that kid who, wanted to kind of show, I feel like, people that they were more than just like the crazy keyboard player from this band, and what else you were capable of doing. And I'm just curious, kind of what inspired you to kind of follow that muse and execute what I think is like a really cool record, for a kid to make at that age.
yeah, I mean, of course I remember like that record. I just haven't thought about it in so long.
Yeah, I know.
Um, I made one before that actually. I made two of them,
Oh, that's right.
kind of back to back, like I was constant. Well, that was the thing. Dad had a little recording thing, and he kind of showed me the basics of it, and then I'd play a piano part, and then listen, and then I'd play the drums, and I was building
Hmm.
tracks. so that was fun to kind of like do that myself, and figure that out and screw up. And there's a lot of like stuff on there. I remember that like were complete like mistakes that I left because it was like I don't know how to fix this, or I was like, okay, well that's cool enough, I guess. There's a lot of singing out of key too, but I mean, I made it because my good friend was hit by a car and was killed, and I was 18 when that happened, or no, I was
He
16
was
when that
16.
happened. I was
Yeah.
16 years old when that happened, and he was 15, and uh, that was a really tragic thing to go through. And the beautiful part about all of it was that everybody in where we grew up kind of wrapped their arms around everybody in that moment, and um, all the parents, um, all of close friends, and the jocks and the nerds, and everybody was sympathetic in that
Right.
moment.
It kind of brought people together in a way that
Yeah, it did.
maybe
And
wouldn't have been brought together
I made I
otherwise.
made and I made some friends through it that I don't think I would have been close with if that didn't happen. Now, do I wish he was here instead?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it um but it bonded me with people, and I brought them in and they played on the record too. So
Yeah.
um it was just a very, I mean, I guess I've always sort of consistently written when, things are hard. I think it's the most therapeutic thing is to write a song, for me, or to paint. But painting is a different. There's something different with that. When it comes to music, you have a choice to say things vulnerable, or you have things
Yeah.
that you can say things hidden, or whatever you can do. You can do it any way you want. Um, but I chose to just I just chose to write that for myself, but for all of our friends too.
Yeah, it's like healing like ritual, and
Yeah,
it was a communal thing too, where it wasn't just about, I mean, it was about you and your experience, but so many other people were going through the same thing. And music does heal, it does bring people together. It is a language, that you can really feel like is common among people, in a general sense, and I feel like, your way of helping everybody through it, honestly, was to write those songs, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I believe that now more than you know,
right.
I didn't understand that then
Yeah. You were
necessarily.
just kind of experiencing this like super raw, complicated thing,
I
and others
remember
were too.
I remember no one would know who this is, so it doesn't matter. But one of our friends, he played guitar in a band called Recital, and he came up to me. He was like, "I had no idea that you are um, this uh, uh, emotional about things." And he was like, I had no idea that you could write stuff like this, like putting violins, even though they're fake, you know, uh, you know, and it was a cool little compliment. I mean, I'm saying it wrong, but it was genuine is what he was saying. He was
Mhm.
like really being nice about it, and that was like, okay, like then I should keep doing stuff for myself.
Right. Well, and I think too, like back to like the original kind of question, is like we're multi-dimensional people, just by nature, like I think especially creative people, they're not just like one thing. And I think at the time, you were the younger kid who was crazy on stage, and that was kind of like the initial character, that maybe like you sort of like played in the movie of our lives.
Sure.
But the reality is like you're not just that person. And I think that that was like such a mature thing to do at the time, and like showed a different side of you that like continues to like evolve over time.
I mean,
But that was like the beginning of that.
that is the real side. I mean, the performance stuff, that's just like for fun, That's
Yeah.
for everybody. That was for everybody else. And for me
Well,
to have fun with it. But
it's real in that like it is you, and but I think your heart is more in the like side of you that is a bit more contemplative and vulnerable in that emotional way. Um, well,
yep.
speaking of something that isn't vulnerable nor emotional, uh, in really any way, shape, or form, kind of as we travel through the timeline of your musical life, after, Red Shirt kind of wound down, you were trying the solo stuff and doing that, playing a little bit of shows and things and making those recordings. Thunderbirds Are Now also landed, crash landed in your lap, I guess, after a little while of existing in other c- sort of configuration. You sort of joined Thunderbirds in a very similar way to
Yeah.
Red Shirt, where it was like,
Do you
what
want to
if
play?
Scott just played keyboards on this, right? So
Yeah.
take me back to like those early days of that experience with Mike and Marty and me, and Joe, who was playing bass for us at the time,
Hmm.
kind of into, you know, all of a sudden we're opening for big bands, we're making records, we're getting written about in magazines, we're going on these tours. Like all this kind of happened really fast, honestly. And I'm just kind of curious about like what was your experience with that? Because I know mine, like I know how I felt. And I have an idea of how you felt. But like I do think it's something that I don't fully know I will never know what it feels like to have been you in that experience, just like you won't know what it feels like to have been me in that experience, right? So
Yeah.
give me like a snapshot of that a little bit if you can.
I mean, it really has.
I know it's like a
Yeah.
crazy thing to try to sum up. Trust me.
I mean, yeah, it was fast. It was pretty well. I mean, you had a leg up on people because you worked at Real Detroit and you knew when shows were coming in and you contacted these people. And you're like, I'm in a band. Can I play? And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And
Yeah,
you also, to be fair, you also helped other bands to get on shows. Like, I think that
sure.
needs to be, uh, you know,
That did happen
well, yeah, it did a lot.
here and there, here and there.
Yeah. But
But we were also pretty good, like eventually. So I feel like the like sort of balanced out, right? Where like if we sucked, like nobody would want us to come back, and those bands wouldn't have like said like, hey, why don't you play some more shows with us, right? Like that. I think it's both those things. Like me working at Real Detroit helped,
sure.
but
Yeah.
we also eventually figured out how to be a pretty good band. But anyways, back to what you're saying.
I just
Like
remember all of us saying to each other, like, we're going to write these songs, but we're going to be insane on stage. Like, it was like, that's part of the songwriting is
yeah.
like, we're not going to just, and I'm referring more to the first record, Dr. Lawyer, Indian
Yeah,
Chief.
yeah, yeah.
That was kind of, I mean, to me, that was what it was. So it's like, okay, how do you be rambunctious? Well, you put pots and pans on a record. You hit a cowbell. You squeal and
Run
say,
your vocals through a guitar amp with the
yeah, just
distortion
like
turned up.
just try to do anything that captures the live performance of it.
Right. The
And I
chaos
think
of
that
it.
I think that record did that the most out of all of the records, maybe. But um, um, I mean,
Are
Like,
you surprised that we like caught on with people? Like I'm always curious, like what everybody's take is on that because I certainly was. Like as much as I felt like confident in what we were doing, you
yeah.
know, I also was like, why do people like this? You know? And I'm
Well,
curious if
because
you ever
it's not,
felt that
well,
way.
I think this is the truth of it. It's not music that you would necessarily gravitate towards and write right away. And it wasn't
You mean
music
me
that I,
personally.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right,
maybe
right.
I think so. And
No,
same
you're
here.
you're right.
And I mean, we're not writing music like that anymore, and not even close to it. And I think that was more, I mean, to be fair to Marty and Mike, um, they listened to probably stuff a little bit more like that. And we were trying to write around that. And then we all kind of eventually discovered
Yeah. There
other
was a lot of
things.
crossover, but
Yeah.
there was also a lot of disparate tastes happening at the same time, for sure.
Yeah. But like, I felt like, you know, I mean, all the different members over the years always added something unique to it. But
Hmm.
I think the original like four, like you, me, Marty, and Mike. I mean, I remember very distinctly thinking, well, Ryan is playing this insane, weird guitar progression. And then Marty is playing another insane alternate part. And I always felt like they were like always fighting each other,
Hmm.
but working together. And
Yeah.
I think the glue was to put a counter melody.
On a
And so,
completely different instrument
yeah.
and
And
with a different
that was my,
frequency, a
yeah.
different sonic, element to it. Yeah.
So that was kind of, I felt like my way in.
Yeah. No, I think that's cool to kind of hear um in terms of like the stack of things, right? Like that's how I always kind of thought about it. Like
Yeah.
we were the interesting thing about the band was how we sort of stacked these things kind of on top of each other in this way that kind of got on top of each other in a messy way, but like
Yeah.
still felt like because there was tension to it, like it still felt tight, even when it was crazy in a
Well, it felt
way.
like
I don't
there's always
know.
a break too.
Yeah, I
Sometimes.
mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of times we did,
Well, I'm
you
just
know.
saying it always felt like you were doing this
Yeah,
every song. And
yeah,
um I don't know. I mean, yeah. But I also think there was like, I also think there was a lot of creative freedom for everybody in that band
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Um I mean, you wrote most of the songs, but I wrote a couple songs on later stuff, and
And we
that
wrote
was
some together, I remember I distinctly remember writing would have been from no, Two Skulls together. I
we did.
remember you and me in the basement of mom and dad's house, just the two of us, and I kind of had that riff and we sort of wrote that. I feel like the melody to that together. I don't know, maybe we were like drunk in mom and dad's basement, just like
Probably.
coming up with something weird,
Hmm.
um but yeah, I always felt like there was like this kind of like intersection of things that were happening in this really interesting way that like evolved over the course of those albums. And I feel like you and John Schmerzel, for example, like really had this like cool connection when we made our last record of really trying to like insert this like these colors and these sort of sounds into it that like were kind of like in the background sometimes or just treated in
Well,
a way that
you had a
like
lot of really cool gear that was
yeah,
like
yeah,
old and
yeah,
worked,
yeah, yeah,
and so that was kind of like, well, everyone would go because we recorded. I don't know if he'd be okay. I mean, we recorded in a house. Um, John was the guitar player of Brainiac, and he was also the singer songwriter of YPNHOM.
correct.
I just letting the audience know. um,
Also, John Stuart Mill hit one of his side projects, Vertical Scratchers as well.
yeah, but everyone would kind of go to bed, and John and I would stay up, and I mean, just like stuff that wouldn't even like probably end up on the record. I mean, there was one time where him and I just like was just like looping something, just like, and like he would go up to it and he'd like hit something, and then he'd kind of laugh and I laugh and I'd do it, and we did it for like 40 minutes. I
That's
don't know if he
amazing.
remembers that, but those were the things. Those that, like again, that was like I was more enamored with the recording process. That's why I stayed up with him, because what he was doing, he was like, I need to stay up and mix this shit before they wake up tomorrow so we can get to the next portion of what we're
Yeah.
doing. And what I
Yeah.
was doing was distracting him, and he fully embraced that distraction.
Yeah.
But
That's a man with ADHD if I ever met one.
well,
And
yeah,
I mean that in the most complimentary way.
no, he's an
He's a
incredible person.
genius.
I love John.
Yeah.
John has always been a sweet person to me. Always. He was
Yes.
when we went on tour with Enon. Every time, all three of them, Toko and Matt, they were
Yep.
all beautiful. They're beautiful people, and I
Truly amazing.
I remember
That
going seeing Willy Wonka, the Johnny Depp version with Toko, and her just being like, "What the fuck is this?"
I don't remember that.
It was just her and me. It was like in some
Oh,
mall.
okay. Weird. Yeah. We went west with them, which is like I think it added to like the adventure of it all. Like I mean, we did another, I think, shorter tour with them, maybe, or like did a couple Ohio shows or something, I think, or something like that. But
Well, they saw us in Bowling Green.
yeah, but I feel like we played with them in Cincinnati. I don't know.
I felt like we were always
Maybe
on
that
tour.
was the same tour. I don't know. That's a blur for me. But yeah, going out west with them was really kind of wild. Like I remember eating at pizza, like an old Pizza Hut with them once. I don't know why. I have this memory in my mind. It was like somewhere in the mountains. It was like nowhere to eat, and so we had to go to Pizza Hut. And just like I just felt like I'm like sitting at Pizza Hut with like the guy from Brainiac, like eating pizza. This is so weird. Uh, but yeah, they were so sweet to us and like really took us under their wing. Um, so yeah, I know that there's no possible way we could ever sum up the experience that we had in that band together. Like that could be its own podcast. We could talk about it for 10 years. But I do want to ask you one more thing, which
Yeah.
is what's your proudest moment from the experience in that band? If not proudest, like one of the things that kind of comes to mind that you're just like, I tell everybody this, or this is a thing that happened that like I know I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Um, I mean, it sounds so dumb, but just the real experience of it, not playing the shows necessarily, but everything in between the
Yeah.
shows. That is the time we got at that age to do that and see the world quickly, not
Hmm.
not always the way I think most people get to see it when they go and
No,
visit places.
I tell people all the time, like, oh, I've been there for like a day. I don't know what's
I just
there.
remember being in Rome and being like, we want to see the uh,
The Coliseum.
Coliseum, and and we went at like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah. This is
That was
our
the only
only
time
this
we could
is
see
our
it.
only
And
option.
when we got out of the van, they're like, "Be careful! There's like women that will come and like steal your money, so you
Yeah.
have to." But um,
Yeah, that was wild. That's why I liked that Australian tour because I feel like we got like more time to do stuff,
yeah.
and we like sort of got to see more things and like it
Well,
felt just like a little more slower than like the other tours that felt so chaotic and just like get to the next place.
that's probably the story that I tell the most is probably when we were in Sydney and we got on that boat and we we drove around that whole Sydney Harbor, the entire thing. And it was us, it was Les Savifav, Pretty Girls Make Graves, Gossip, and the Hold Steady, right? And and
And Jens Linkman.
oh yeah, he played that one show.
He
Um,
played the boat show, yeah.
yeah, which makes sense um, for his music. But we toured around the whole Sydney Harbor, and that was like surreal because the sun was coming down. It was very pink,
Hmm.
blue. There was a lot of that, and then you know, as you rounded the corner, you looked and you saw the Opera House,
Hmm.
and it was like, you know, 100 feet from us.
Which is
And
where we picked up all of the people.
well,
We
that
picked
was
them
the
up
thing.
there.
That was the thing. We parked the boat. You're
Yeah.
looking at the Sydney Opera House, and then you're seeing 600 kids lined up to come on this boat to watch you play. And then over here to your left, further to your left, there's these trees with these insanely fruit bats, you know,
Yeah,
big
yeah,
bats. Like I remember seeing that and being like, "Do you guys see what the hell is that?" It's a fruit bat,
yeah.
but
That was surreal, a very surreal experience
to
for
see like
sure.
all of that, and
At
like
the same time, yeah.
I've only been in Sydney for a day, and there's 600 people coming to see our band play.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I remember
People,
blowing the power. Like I feel like I had to play out of a keyboard amp because like the guitar amps were shorting them. I don't know. It was a whole that was a whole
yeah, it
night.
was like right
Again,
away, and then it was like a delay of like an hour, and everyone's like standing around on a boat.
maybe instead of getting Thunderbirds back together to play music, we just do a podcast where we talk about the fucking crazy shit that happened over the very honestly short period of time that we were a band in reality, you know? But man, the stories that we could tell, I mean, would be
Yeah,
it would be an insane podcast. I'm gonna keep that in the back of my mind as a
yeah, you should.
possibility.
It's better
Um,
than
uh,
loading amps in and out of the venue.
This is true. That's true. Let's just get stoned and talk about our, stupid mistakes that we made. Anyway, um, again, we could talk about the band forever, but I want to move on. I want to move on to kind of like the post Thunderbirds years for you, which kind of, in my mind, found you kind of getting back into musically speaking, into the mindset that you were in when you did the breakdance records, where you were more contemplative and like we're drawn more to like Elliott Smith at the time and Wilco at the time, but then later, evolved into Harry Nilsson and, deep Beatles stuff, love for the Beach Boys, Lennon solo records, Paul Simon, like just connecting with, older in terms of like wiser, I guess I mean, wiser, more introspective music. And so at the time, post Thunderbirds again, which was a chaos machine, you were drawn to something more contemplative and calm and were writing music like that. And so you made a record with Dad, um,
Yeah,
called Arranged Marriage, which I will take the credit for that name. The only good band name I've ever come up with. Um, but then also, Big Mess eventually kind of like, tumbling out of that. But talk to me about the whole arranged marriage experience, the creation of that music and sort of, all these years on, I'm curious, like what, you know, retrospectively, like how do you feel when you look back on it or listen to those songs?
well, I see about 400 copies that didn't sell, but
Well,
but you know, I was still living at home, you know, and because I was younger and I didn't have any money, and I was with mom and dad,
well,
and
I mean, we came back from such a whirlwind sort of experience. Like, I think all of us had sort of this, like, what now, kind
yeah,
of
it was a
thing,
we
right?
broke even, sometimes we lost money. We never really made any money, but we gained a lot of experience, and
Yeah,
that was
we had
like
we had
that
amazing
was
times.
to me that's more beautiful than a bunch of fucking money. But
Yeah.
but um yeah, I mean,
Living at home,
yeah, I was living at home,
sort of
and dad,
figuring shit out, writing
yeah,
some
and dad
tunes.
and dad and I think what we did is we hooked up his record player
Hmm.
and we started listening to a lot of his records.
Hmm.
Um, and listening to a lot of Paul Simon, listening to a lot of, a lot of Paul Simon's like solo records, and showing him Elliott Smith, and like doing this compare and contrast of like generations
Hmm.
of music that are kind of like influencing each other.
Yeah, finding common ground in these
Yeah,
connected things. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think it really kind of started like that, just like an initial bond, and
Yeah.
then I think I wrote one song. I wrote one song, which is the first song on the record that I was basically trying to write a Smith song, like a which it sounded nothing like that. Ended up not sounding like that at all. But the
Hmm.
melody, I wanted it to kind of like have like a Morrissey kind of like a feel to it or whatever.
Yeah, right on.
Um, and he I think he recorded it, and then it ended up just being like, well, I got one. Okay, well, I'll play on it. And so like it was like we were trading songs.
Yeah.
He wrote five, I wrote five, and we were kind of helping produce those.
Producing each other. Yeah,
Yeah,
sort of in a way.
and
Yeah,
again, another experience of me learning how to record.
totally.
Um,
And you did a
so
lot of the engineering on that too, right? I mean, like you were
yeah, I mean,
you
I came
you
up with a lot of ideas. Yeah,
yeah,
he was running the board for the most
yeah,
part.
right. But you sort of started to pick up on it a bit, right? When you say and that during that
Yeah, I
experience.
mean, I would say that I took I what I was doing in Thunderbirds, a lot of sampling, a lot of like, that
Right,
kind of
right,
stuff,
right,
and
right.
sampling in a different way, not in a way that sounded like what we created, but sampling things in a more
Yeah,
melodic way rather than like a
right.
noisy way. So that was kind
What's
of a breakthrough.
what's a song from that record that you feel like when you look back on it, like um that you're kind of you feel either proud of or just like, we have these songs in our past, right? That like different eras of songwriting, I feel like you can always kind of point to one and go like, of this time frame. Like if I had to pull one song out and be like, these 5 years when I was writing songs, like this is the best one of that batch. Like, is there a song on that record, whether it's one of yours or just like even one of Dad's, I guess, that
Yeah, no,
like,
there's two. One of Dad's is all
yeah,
mine,
yep.
and probably mine is Now or Never.
Hmm.
Those two songs, they're like mid tempo,
Hmm.
more of the sadder songs on the record, more, and I think is all mine is maybe Dad's best song he's ever
Yeah.
written. Not maybe like the most. I just think the most like interesting one he wrote. And Now or Never was just kind of like, I don't know, simple, exactly the kind of song I always kind of want to write. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is, it's kind of a waltz, right? Almost kind of
yeah, that's
ding,
Dad's
ding,
song. Yeah,
ding.
yeah, that's Dad.
Oh,
Oh no,
okay.
yeah, yeah,
No,
they're
now
both
or
kind of waltzy.
never.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
both
right.
kind of waltzy. Yeah,
Um,
I love the
just like
waltz.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, isn't there an oboe on that or something, or like a or like a
Oh yeah, I think
um
Christian Doble played.
baritone sax on it, maybe?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Christian played on it.
Yeah,
Christian
that
Doble.
song, that's an insane, that's a song is so good.
Thanks.
And yeah, well, you're welcome. Um, and so, that kind of record is more. I think showing that Beach Boys almost like um I mean we all really like Summer Teeth, right? Like we loved that record and I feel like there's a little like Summer Teeth vibe to that album to an extent. And um but it's a very studio, you know,
Yeah,
methodically planned collection of songs, and really well thought out. But at the same sort of time, we're like kind of tumbling out of that became or was eventually Big Mess started,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Which was more rock and roll, at the beginning, right?
Hmm.
Where it was petty and kind of like that Americana, almost like Loud Wilco, like
Yeah.
being their era kind of rock and twangy rock and roll. So like talk to me about that band, how that's kind of started, the guys you play with, and really just like to, you know, fast forward the timeline a little bit, like not only what you guys kind of like did then, but also what you guys are working on now and what you kind of have done the last, handful of years as a group.
Sure. So like uh, when Thunderbirds was done, and I was also doing that record with Dad
Yeah.
as Thunderbirds was kind of like ending.
Ending, yeah.
Yeah, and we finished it I think when Thunderbirds ended. But there was a bar that opened up at the end of the block at our parents' house, which you know sucked because we all went there and drank and were young idiots. And there was a
Nothing
bunch
else to do.
there was a bunch of other idiots that were there, three brothers and a bass player, and old friends from high school.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, there's a bar in Livonia, Michigan. Let's all go there, and instead of being in our basement, let's drink, shitty beer for $1.50. And but ironically, what we all did is our mom and dad, maybe mom, was patient with it, but accepted us to have people over. We had a lot of bands that we toured with that has stayed
Hmm.
in this house,
We've
in,
housed many a band
in their
at mom and
house. And
dad's.
so, yeah, I mean, Steve Lamos, the drummer from American Football,
Yeah.
had slept in mom's bed. You know what I mean? Like it's funny to me. Um,
Hella and X models and
yeah.
I don't remember who else woke up in our basement of our parents' house to a flooded floor.
Oh yeah, I
Like
remember.
the sump pump backed up and the whole floor was flooded and these dudes were sleeping on the floor.
Oh my god.
Uh that was an interesting morning. Anyway, yes,
Yeah. So they would,
big mess.
after we were heavily probably intoxicated, we're like, let's go back and write some songs. So we
Yeah.
did.
Mhm.
And you know, CJ is an incredible bass player. Rob is a great drummer, and Pat is a great guitar player. They're all very, very talented people because they're more like they're like cover they listen to like punk rock music, but they like loved to cover like music from like from that like 60s
Yeah,
70s
yeah, yeah. They're
type
like
stuff.
incredibly sick musicians. Like
Yeah, they're like amazing
unbelievably
musicians. Yeah.
unbelievably talented guys.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say that CJ is a songwriter as well, but the other, everyone else, and then Mike eventually joined the band. So Mike and Rob
Yeah.
being twins, Pat being
Shout
the
out
older
shout out
brother.
Jim too. Jim tickling those
Oh
ivories
yeah,
back in the day.
Jim playing the piano. That dude
Yeah.
played like Bruce
Wearing wearing
Hornsby.
a wearing a robe.
He could put 58 notes between every bar.
I
Um,
totally forgot about him until just this moment. And I was like, oh yeah, that guy.
so we just started writing songs, and Dad was here, and he's like, "Well, I'll record them," I mean, and that was the thing, and it happened, 3 different times or twice. I mean, a couple handful of times, and then it stopped because I met somebody and I got married and I moved to Ann Arbor, and it all, I was helping raising a child, and it kind of became really, really busy for me in that sense. And we kind of stopped. We had a little bit of falling out. I don't think they were ready to like let it go, and I wasn't really either. But like I wanted to not live at mom and dad's anymore, and I also fell in love, which was the real reason. And then also for the fact that I wanted to help raise her son with together. And 10 years later, we got a divorce, unfortunately. And during that process, I had to move back home and figure my life out a little bit, and which was incredibly hard and embarrassing,
Yeah.
and sad in so many ways. But I went through a process of trying to heal the best I can, and one of those things was to reach out to those guys and just and to just ask them how they're doing.
Yeah.
And it was super easy. And they're like, "We're doing great. What's wrong? Let's hang out."
Yeah. They're the
And so
best, dude.
they all came. CJ wasn't really into the music, but I understand. The songs that I was writing, he wasn't really
Yeah,
that
because it kind
interested.
of turned a
It
little
shifted.
corner from
It shifted. I think it's
what it
become
was.
more of like a concept-y sort of storytelling of our youth, and those experiences. So the record
Yeah.
that we ended up doing was, it's called From Sheldon. What is it called? From Sheldon Hall to Wonderland Mall. And for those,
Deep Livonia
yeah,
reference.
for those who don't know, that's the you know the mile between Farmington and Merriman, which is
Yeah. The real heads know what's up.
right. So
They know about it.
that was our neighborhood. That was it. So it kind of, for me, the record was about,
The start and the end. I didn't actually like think about that until you said
yeah.
it, where it's like, okay, that's even funnier. Yeah.
So
That's really funny.
um but that record was about reconnecting with your friends.
Yeah.
And remembering your past and letting go of things in your life, things that maybe were hard, like Thunderbirds breaking up. That was really hard for me because I was so young.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a very therapeutic experience, and it was also about my divorce too, slightly.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Right.
I mean, there's notes of it, but it was more about, it became about friendship.
Yeah. No, and it's a really cool record. Um, you basically did it all. You recorded it, you mixed it, you
We all did.
painstakingly kind of put it together. But yeah,
We
right.
all,
No, it was like sort of
I mean, we all did.
self-made, record, and it sounds really great. And um, talk to me about the new thing that you're working on right now. Like I know it's still something that's like a work in progress, but
I mean,
um
it's almost done. It's just it's kind of a mixing nightmare right now. There's a lot of stuff on
yeah.
it that probably
And
will be.
you did the drums at a studio as opposed to like at home last time.
Yeah.
Like you did drums and piano at Big Sky, who I record with sometimes, Jeff Michael. But then you brought sort of the rest of it in to your home studio to kind of like, um, you know, continue with, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Pat did everything at his house this time. He
Yeah.
got
Okay.
we all got Logic
Yeah.
basically, and we're like, okay,
Cool.
well, this, so we haven't really been in the room since we wrote those songs together. So we
Yeah.
recorded it last summer, all the basic tracking, and then we've been working on it slowly. I mean, I'm really excited about it. It's like
Yeah.
it's kind of like a comedy, and it's also, I mean, it's like it's about high school. It's about everybody's high school experience, not our high school experience, but like the general senses of like
Yeah.
the type of characters that all play a
Right.
role and things like that.
Yeah, John Hughes like kind of like
Totally.
caricature of yeah, that era. Yeah. No, the
Probably not the
bully, the cool
soundtrack.
kid. Yeah.
The soundtrack doesn't sound like a John Hughes. The music
No,
doesn't
but
sound like a John Hughes soundtrack, but um,
it's the concept
well, and
is what
that's
that
the
is.
thing, because I mean, like Breakfast Club, it's are we going to be like our parents when we grow up? I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it is there is a lot of that in there.
Right.
There's a lot of like it's a lot about self growth and like and like trying to be comfortable with yourself.
Mhm.
Those are very impressionable times. And my experience with high school was not like everybody else's experience, because I was going on tour the last 2 years, 3 years
Right.
of it.
Yeah.
And so there's perspective there as well. But maybe that's why I subconsciously wanted to do it in some ways, to have some sort of like normacy of like what that experience could have been in a way too. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
hear. No, that's interesting. Like, I guess you know, it's such a strange thing to have this like shared experience that also is so individualized at the same time because while we experience the same thing, and we talk about this a lot, like sometimes you'll remember something that I have no recollection of. Like, and you'll remember it in like crazy detail, but I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking. I have no picture of this in my mind. But then I'll remember something that you're like, what are you saying? I don't remember that, or a lot like I remember a lot of the details of like the names of the clubs we played and like who opened the show and like sort of these like, you know, facts about, the situation that like somehow just like stick in my mind. Whereas I think you remember more of the like in between moments, like you kind of were saying earlier. But anyways, it's a really weird thing to like go through this experience where you share it, but yet you have your, kind of like
Own
version
interpretation.
of it and I have mine. Yeah, it's such a strange
Yeah.
thing. But anyway, so um yeah, I mean, just to kind of like put a bow on like the big mess stuff, I feel like the second version of the band, and this is no disrespect to kind of the first iteration at all, is kind of reaching back towards the arranged marriage,
Hmm.
kind of mindset where, your um, your love of the Beach Boys, your love of kind of like intricate production, John Bryan, some of these like cinematic like
Jim
kind of
O'Rourke.
guys,
Jim
Jim
O'Rourke.
O'Rourke, yeah, like gets a place to play in the context of sort of a rock pop song, like it's a really cool kind of like combination, and I think like those dudes in your band want to rock, sometimes, and you'll give them that like like ability to do that. And some of the songs that I heard on the record that you're still finishing, there are elements of that, but then there's
Yeah.
also really like or sort of ornate and like really like clever things happening. So I'm just like excited for it to come out, and I'm excited for people to hear it
Well,
at some
but
point because it's gonna be it's a really cool record.
those Carding boys love the Beach Boys too. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Mike and I listened to Beach Boys today together. He showed me Beach. I'm like, Smile, Pet Sounds. He's like, well, have you listened to Beach Boys today? I'm like, no. He goes, well, we're listening to side B. I'm like, okay. And we listened to side B, and I was like, holy crap. And he was like, this is what they wrote before Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
So Mike knows his, they all know their shit.
Yeah,
They
of
are
course. Yeah, of
they're
course.
all like, and it's not like me just kind of like pulling the strings. Like there's a lot,
Yeah.
it's a lot of collaborative effort in the very beginning. But you know, because we were so separated during this recording process, I I probably took a little bit more liberty putting stuff like that in.
Yeah.
Um, but there's stuff that, but it's done in a different way. You know, it's not
And you
done.
know that they're gonna like dig it too because they also like have an appreciation for where you're coming from with it.
And if they don't, then it's out. You know,
Yeah,
like
they'll tell you, right?
it's a complete, to me it's a complete like nothing goes.
Democracy.
Yeah, like everybody
Yeah.
like approves.
It's a democracy, which some people do not like, apparently. I was not aware until recently.
Oh,
But anyhow, all right. Well, let's kind of bring it towards like where you kind of currently are and what you've been also doing musically, sort of at the same time as the big mess thing, kind of, and whatever, eventually. But um, you made a record during COVID. It's kind
yeah,
of your first musical thing that you did in quite some time.
yeah,
Um, and then since then, you've made a handful of EPs. You've made um, a couple singles, right? Uh, but you've kind of gone back to this like version of Scott musically that has always also kind of existed in this way. But you've kind of fully embraced it now and leaned into it, and that's your project Scoffs. So first, what is the name referencing? I think I know.
well, I'm curious.
Well, part of the name is your name, right?
Yeah,
So, and then scoffing, like making that sound.
uh
There might be somebody in your life that did that uh you found aggravating potentially. And it's a
well, you're wrong. I I mean, yes, you're right. It's just what it really was. That first one, I just named it my full name, and
yeah,
then
right, right,
I
right.
changed it because I never really liked that. Um, I was watching something with the captions on,
Oh,
and
okay.
it goes like someone scoffs, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's my name. No, it's not. It says scoffs, and I just thought it was funny. Immediately thought
Yes,
it was
that's
funny,
cool.
and yes, that person, uh, uh, for sure. I actually do scoff, and the newest song. It's very subtle, but I do. Um, but it also is kind of a statement, a little bit. But
Yeah.
but
Okay.
but like, but
Well,
not
talk to me about the music then.
yeah,
Like it's more electronic, it's more kind of beat oriented. It's got like still some cinematic stuff going on and um like it kind of taps into like what I know is like you're kind of like Tom York side of your musical brain, not to distill it or diminish it to just that, right? Like it's more than that. But talk to
yeah.
me about kind of like how I'm really curious because like I don't write music like this.
Mhm.
I strictly write music on the guitar. And so I can't like put together how you even begin to make a song like that. So
Sure.
talk to me about that first.
I mean, it usually does start on piano, um, but it's not done in. I don't write like I would write for. Well, honestly, it's kind of like how I started writing music in Red Shirt Brigade, which was
Right.
like very kind of like, you know, this sort of thing.
Yeah, singular notes and like
Yeah,
arpeggiation, modulations, and like more like um tinkly, for lack of a better, or ping-pongy versus like lush big
tinkly.
chords. I don't know, man. That's something
um,
that I would have written in a record review in like the year
tinkly.
2001. The tinkly sounds of Scoffs.
Yeah, no, I guess I don't honestly. It's a lot of listening to sounds. A lot of I've got a lot of synths, like plug-in type stuff. I've
Yeah.
sampled a lot of things. I've sampled my piano. I've sampled just a myriad of things.
Yeah.
And now I have like this little bag of toys
Mhm.
that like is all on files. And so, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I can apply this to this and apply that to that. So it's kind of like collage in a
Okay.
lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Word.
It's kind of like the art that I do, which is a lot of collage type work. And it's just finding the space in that, like
Hmm.
uh, someone said this to me, which I thought was really interesting. I wish I came up with it, but it is sort of like each song is kind of like it lives in a different it's like under the same house, but it lives in it. Like each song is like in everybody's room, they're listening to a different song.
Hmm.
There's a different personality to every one of those things, and I like that about it. I like the
Hmm.
freedom that it offers. I like that I can um uh, go dig into the more soundtracky type stuff and all those
Right.
like weird like I'm like obsessed with a lot of weird like documentary soundtracks from like the 60s, like just like really weird synthy type stuff that um is like just like throwaway, um but it's like so beautiful and done and recorded so crisp and awesome,
Hmm.
um and a lot of like spaghetti western type stuff,
Hmm.
and all that stuff is very it's like very it's like all over the place. It's not made for vocals, it's made
Right.
for a movement. And even though I put vocals in, I try not to like overdo it. But
Hmm.
the creative choice vocally is more about really being vulnerable,
Yeah.
honestly, because I mean, any solo record that I listen to, it's always like, well, just talk for real. And that's what I try to do with it. And it's more about discovery and like why are we
Yeah.
here? And that whole like I don't understand a lot of like why we're here, and things like that. And that's something I could definitely go down a weird path with. I'm not going to,
Also, its own podcast could just
but
be that.
but you know, there's I don't know. I have a lot of fears,
Mhm.
and I think
Same,
that
bro.
that's the place where I can express those
Yeah.
fears.
Well, I think I would assume that this is the case throughout your entire musical experience, but I feel like with Scoffs, it might even be more applicable. But I'm curious what you think about what I'm saying here. But like, do you feel like your visual art and your video editing and sort of the other things that you do outside of music that are creative have a direct link and impact and relationship with your your songwriting in general, but even more specifically with Scots, because it is maybe a broader canvas for you to
Mhm.
sort of paint on? Like what does that what does me saying that and asking that question make you think and feel?
Well, it makes me think about layers of production because I mean, with editing and animating, everything's stacked on each other,
Yeah,
and
right.
it's it's like collage. It really is like it's like putting a puzzle together. It's a lot of like just trying to figure out where it all kind of plugs in and works, in
Yeah.
that space. And I think the reason why I probably write that way for my solo stuff is because I write around moments when I'm waiting for a client to get back, or a video to be approved and whatnot. So I'm trying to like find moments where I have like an hour while I'm just kind of sitting there waiting around. I can like maybe make a little loop of something.
Hmm.
So it's like
Hmm.
it can start from that. It can start from like just playing something on piano and then walking over to a synth and just plug it in really quick.
Right.
It's sort of like a demo-y type thing.
But
And then
it's almost like sounds like there's like a easy handoff between like, okay, I'm like editing video here and I'm doing these kind of keystrokes and I'm like, kind of placing these things kind of in these ways. And then it's like, okay, like I did it. I'm waiting for feedback. I'm going to access almost the same part of my brain and go, okay, now I'm going to do that music. Same thing I just did here. I'm going to do that for music,
yeah,
and I'm going to sort of like stack these things. I'm going to cut this and I'm going to, like make the dynamic go up because, like just like when I'm editing a story of some kind, the story has to get more up feeling at this point, right? Like I can't like it's got to pick up from here, or it's just gonna feel too down, right? So like whatever. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, where
no,
there's
you're right.
a
It's
direct
it's
correlation between that, not only just in terms of like the like theoretical relationship, but there's an actual like physical
yeah,
like transition between the two, which I think is really interesting. I didn't know that that was like something that you did,
yeah. It's like
honestly.
taking little loops and then taking something else and sticking them together and see what happens, and
Yeah.
then going
Well,
back and redoing it.
I think it's, I mean, I think all of the sort of things you do musically are great and thoughtful and, deep and, really exciting and, you know, kind of speaks to that like searcher discovery type of soul that you are. But the scoff stuff, especially the newest thing, like
Self love.
Self-Love, which just came out last Friday, um, is so good and so I just the recording is even of it, is like super awesome and crisp and just,
Thanks.
it sounds really great.
Well,
Um,
I meant every word
yeah.
because what you have to understand is like I feel like I've given a lot to a lot of people in my life. I've also been given a lot of opportunities. Um, but I've always dealt with depression. I've always dealt with I don't know. Just I look at the world. I'm not saying like I'm different than anybody else, but I feel like I can see through it sometimes. I look at people in a way where I focus on mannerisms maybe more than I listen to what they're saying, uh, because I'll lose my concentration and focus on that or something. I'll find that more interesting sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, and it really has you identify like your mind identifies in a very different way because of that. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know that like I don't need to do that necessarily all the time because I'm not focusing on myself,
Mm.
and um, and I've had to do a lot of self reflecting on a lot of things, and it just being that was a very that whole process was a very therapeutic thing for me. I wrote all three of those songs in one night.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I started at like maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I ended at like three in the morning. Um, but it was a very just like I had to just like get it all out at once. I wanted it to feel like like a stream of something, even though
Yeah.
the song is kind of separated from the other two tracks. But I just wanted it to feel like that. I wanted it to feel like just like a just like I wanted it to feel like it was like there's opportunity of growth there, that
Yeah.
you're almost like being reborn. That's
Mhm.
like not what I want to say, but it really is kind of like getting through something and focusing on yourself rather than like uh maybe the other the other elements of those things. It's about me now. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. No, dude. I mean, you and I have talked a lot, in the past few months, and I feel like we've gotten a lot closer,
Yeah.
and it's been really awesome to, despite the circumstances, it's been awesome to like just, be in each other's lives in that way. Um, but I am extremely proud of you for channeling, stuff into creativity, because I know how much it helps me,
Yeah, it helps me.
and I know that it helps you too. And so, um, yeah, everybody listening to this should absolutely go listen to the new Scoffs EP. It's called Self Love. It's what Scoffs, what's your Bandcamp? Scoffsmusic.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
You can check it out there. I just, we're having such a good conversation. I don't want to like totally turn away too quickly from the scoff stuff, but like part of this podcast is sort of about like trying to get the word out about what you're making, the thing that you're proud of, and just, like everybody that I've had on, I am a fan of, that I feel like, how is there not thousands and thousands of people that have, you know, have haven't heard, how are there not that many people that haven't heard of this person? Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Because there's so
Um,
many other people in this world.
yeah, well, sure. But my point is
I
that
know, I'm kidding.
getting the word out is, challenging to say the least. So talk to me about, there's a couple things that you do. One, you are really great at like making little video vignette, little kind of visual accompaniments to whatever you release. And that includes the big mess stuff too.
Hmm.
And you've got like a vision for it, and I feel like that's something that like you do that um is unique to you. I mean, other people do it obviously, but like you do it in a really creative way, I feel like, and have like such a like eye for a theme. But then also, sorry, it's like a two-part question, but
It's okay.
the Underflow Records kind of like
Yeah.
connection, um with Adam Fitzgerald and his kind of little crew of artists, like, the intention obviously to like pair up with him and do that, not just because you're friends, but like, you know, people might hear what you have to put out because he is like putting his stamp on it, right? So that's another way of trying to get people to hear it. But talk to me about, the video kind of element of some of these, releases, and then also the relationship between you and Underflow and kind of what that's all about.
Yeah. I wish I didn't do those videos. Honestly, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Um, but it's part of. It's like I can't help myself. I need it to
Yeah.
be a thing. Like I need it.
Yeah.
It needs to feel um, like a whole rounded piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in video editing, and I know what it's like to be like try to sell your thing, by hyping it up with like this like 8-second video or whatever. And
Mhm.
I think it does add to the whole experience of it. I mean, that's what I tried to do with the new release. I wanted to make little pieces for each thing,
Right.
which was like,
Visualizers, as they're called
yeah,
in the industry.
yeah. Um, and I've been doing that a little bit more. So it's I would say that it's become more of like a therapeutic thing too, just to kind of
Sure.
and to work my skill set still, like
Yeah.
still
You're
still
flexing a muscle,
yeah
kind of deal, right? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think it's all of that, and it's probably like perfectionist a little bit too, of like, again, like what I was saying from before. It's like it needs to be like this whole thing.
It's a
Uh,
package, right? It's like
yeah,
not just like a one-dimensional thing because you're not that, right? I think that's like kind of the theme of maybe this whole conversation is like you are this multi-dimensional artist, not just like with the music, but that there's a visual element, there's a multimedia element, right? There's like subtext and meaning and like it's not just, you know, hey, my rock and roll will never die, right? Like
well, that's probably why
it's more than that.
I'm so like. It's probably why I like collage work, because if you put
Yeah, yeah,
all the elements together, like it doesn't make sense, but it does. Like
yeah.
um, I choose to. I mean, if you really listen to a lot of the stuff, it's like they all do kind of have the same kind of feeling. I'm just utilizing different instruments to placate to the genre of
Yeah,
what
yeah, right,
the
right.
thing is.
There's a thing you do melodically. There's a thing, yeah, like that there is a tie that binds all of that stuff for sure. I
Yeah,
think you're absolutely right.
and with,
Um,
with Adam,
yeah, no, yeah, that's kind of the other
sorry, my computer went froze for a second.
uh
When Adam, yeah, so I put out that first thing, and Adam did not. He was like, "Who is this person?" He's like, "I don't even know who this is." Uh, he's like, "Who's this old guy posting stuff?" Which is another fun element of
yeah.
Scoffs. It's
I
making
was gonna
myself
ask you
look.
about it. I was gonna ask you about it. So Scott, the Scoffs persona is an old Scott, basically. So if you go to the Scoffs Instagram, for example, which is what at Scoffs underscore music on Instagram, you can see that the person you're watching on the screen here has an alter ego that is much older.
Well, the goal is to hopefully keep doing it, so I don't have to
You
keep
just get,
adding
yeah.
myself, and it will just start to just like merge, and we'll see like.
What happens when you're that old and then you take an old man picture? Like, are you like 40
I
years
could
older than
reverse it.
that?
I could make it. I could start to try to make myself younger.
Benjamin Button
Yeah, totally.
yourself? Yeah.
I don't know. I just do it because I think it's funny, and
Yeah.
it's also kind of like, I don't know. When we used to take band photos, I always felt so stupid. It's like
Right.
standing there, like
What does it really matter
it
what you
doesn't.
look like?
It
Yeah.
doesn't, and that's really what it is. It's like I
Yeah.
can be old, accept me, MTV. Like it doesn't matter. Like
And we came from like an era where like the way you looked kind of mattered a little bit more than if you were good or not. Like, and
yeah,
I felt like we
still
all like
does.
I personally felt extremely uncomfortable in those days, and it was very hard for me to feel like I was like not, I was like holding us back, I almost felt like sometimes, and such a stupid thing to think now. But like, there was like a look and like I didn't have it, But
Well, and that's probably why I made myself look old, because I definitely didn't have a look when I started writing solo stuff. I was 800 pounds.
well, what I'm just saying, like now it's like, yeah, who gives a shit? Like
Right.
that's not what this is about. But anyways, so you kind of link up with Adam because he hears the first solo record that
We
you just
just
released
started.
under your name, and then you kind of take it from there.
Yeah, he liked it, and then he's like, if you ever want to do anything else, let's do it under my umbrella. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening is I got a divorce, and uh, he went through a divorce, and so him and I both. I hope he's okay with me saying that. I think he is. We bonded over that.
Yeah.
We had each other's backs in a lot of ways, and it became way more of a friendship than anything else.
Hmm.
And I really love that dude. He really cares. He honestly reminds me of you in a lot of ways, because he's always trying to figure out how to promote and and do good for him, but then do good for others too, like what you're doing here. It's super
Yeah.
cool what you're doing. Like I really think this is an awesome thing, Ryan. I'm really
Well, thanks. Thanks, buddy.
I am. I am, and it's really cool. And I really appreciate
I
your
enjoy
work.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a bunch of people that are gonna be like, "Oh, he's talking to his brother. Okay, this is annoying." But
No, I think you'd be surprised. Like I mean, it's a weird thing to have like the shared history, and then kind of talk to each other, as if, it's just like interviewer, interviewee, even though I know the answers to some of these questions, I think,
sure,
or I have a version of it that I think is the answer at least. You know what I mean? But it's still really cool to kind of like listen to your um
answers.
perspective on these things, And so
Yeah, I mean,
um
Adam. So yeah, with Adam, yes, he was incredible, an incredible friend during that process,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I felt like I was that way to him. And then I did a little something. I did like a EP, and I've done three since then. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, three since then, and they're all, and that's probably what I plan on doing with the project. I have other ideas that I really want to do. I've always kind of had this. I've always wanted to do something where I have a handful of musicians that write a song and send it to me, and then I produce it, and then just like mess it up any way I
Yeah.
wanted to do, and then call it a Scoffs record.
Yeah.
So like it
Technical.
literally can be like
Count
anything.
me, count me
Yeah,
in.
yeah, it could be anything. I don't care. I don't. Um and he's like, he's been working on music. Adam's been working on music, and I've put a bunch of stuff on his new thing. So it's just like, it's like,
Yeah.
it's what Adam's doing too. He's he's not really putting out vinyl or CDs or anything like that. He built a community of people, of artists, from all over Michigan, and even I think overseas. He's got a couple of people that he.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So um, it's been really fun to be a part of that. And
Yeah.
Big Chris is
He's
on it too, and he loves both projects. He's really
Yep.
there for us.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important to have like those go-to people, in your life that you can send something to and you can kind of be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or, you know, and then then if you get like kind of, a introspective response, that tends to open up, the ability to like talk about more things than just music, right? And like
Yeah,
form that bonded friendship. So, yeah, I know he's like a special person to you, and like yeah, I just think it's cool that like, it's kind of how I feel with the Centerwind guys, right? Like, we're sort of like part of a thing
yeah,
that is bigger than us, that maybe through that kind of connection to this thing, we can feel like we're kind of a part of something, and I think that there's strength in numbers in that way, But anyways, um, we could talk for a million more years. This could
let's
just
do
be
it.
this could just be a 24-hour
I'll finally
running.
turn into Scoffs.
Yeah. But one of the things that I ask people, and it's kind of like a dorky question, but like, is there anything that you think people that you're into that, people are kind of sleeping on, don't know about, like
Music
should
wise,
it could be literally anything, but like,
hmm.
what's something that you feel like doesn't get like the respect or recognition that it deserves in your mind?
um, I really like this artist. His name is Art Lone.
Okay. I don't know
He
this person.
uh,
Maybe you sent me some of his stuff,
he
but
has a song. I heard it. I heard a song called um, what is it called? It's called "What It Takes to Make You Love Me." Um, that is an excellent song. I am also really into Kevin Ayers, Ayers. Am I saying that
yep.
right? Kevin Ayers. He's got a record called "Shooting at the Moon" that I just think is a masterpiece. It truly is. I also have been listening to a lot of like soundscapey stuff recently.
Hmm.
Um, man, I mean, I could list off a bunch of things, but um, like I don't know, there's a bunch of people.
Yeah,
There's a
get
lot
in
of stuff.
there. Get in the
Yeah,
vault.
I'm looking at stuff right now as I'm talking to you.
No, no, that's
But
those are great picks
but
because like I don't know any of the I know you sent me the Kevin Ayers record and I have heard some of that and you've probably sent me the other thing. But
and the Jim O'Rourke record that came out like I don't know 6 years ago called Simple Songs.
mhm,
I just feel like that record is like God, it's just so good. It's so interesting, like because it sounds like pop music, but it like isn't at all.
right. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's just done so well. That guy
he's
is a genius.
he's definitely like his own thing, you know. There's nobody else. He's Jim O'Rourke, you know. Well, that's cool. Those are good picks. So,
There's
you
one
know,
more thing. There's
yeah,
one more thing.
please, one more. Hit
Not
me.
music or not bands or movies or whatever. Go to places that remind you of your happiest moments.
Mhm. Okay.
Um, I was in LA and I wanted to see where they recorded Pet Sounds, and I called the company and I was like, you know, that it's still a functioning business, and I'm like, I want to see where they recorded the Pet Sounds. Can I come see it? And they're like, yeah, sure, free of charge. I was like, awesome. So I went there and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Truly an amazing thing. I went and saw the Lemon Twigs at the Blind Pig not too long ago by myself, which I've never done. I've never gone and see a band play by themselves. And that was such a therapeutic thing. It was awesome to just be there by myself and take that in for me, not anybody else that I'm hanging out with, just being there and focusing on two
Yeah.
kids that are
Hmm.
like insanely talented. And it was incredible to watch.
Yeah.
And
Going to
being
shows by yourself is cool. I do
and
it all the
being
time.
and being with Les Savifav last week, seeing them in Grand
Hmm.
Rapids with you, that really reminded me so much of our experience, and it really made me appreciate it more. So yeah, go back to the things that you
Mm.
appreciate, because I think it gives you new perspective.
Dude, I can't agree with you more. I mean, I felt the same way. Uh, you know, this will sort of date this episode, but Scott and I went and saw a band, La Savy Fab, that meant like, you know, a ton to us when we were in Thunderbirds Are Now together. And um, it was like such a time warp experience of seeing these people that we really did spend like a pretty good amount of time with
Yeah.
do this thing that like only they can kind of do um, together. You know, it was pretty cool. It's
Mhm.
pretty special. Well, Scott, let's end it on one last question. You're in an elevator, you're stuck in there with somebody, and they kind of find out that you're a musician, you make music. Like, what would be the sort of elevator pitch, like the one sentence, like reason why somebody should just in general check out your art? You know, I would say just your body of work. What would you tell them is the reason why?
Oh my God. Um,
And in, cause in concise as you can.
Yeah, I know. It's just I think the elongated thought is going to make it longer. I mean, I don't know. Just do you want to keep? God, it sounds so stupid. Um, I was going to say, want to keep an open mind. I want to hear something shitty. Um, uh,
Check out Hoobastank.
yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I probably wouldn't say anything. To be honest
There
with
you have it.
you.
There you have it. There you have it.
But I actually, I do have a real quick story. I just can't remember what his freaking name is. We were in London. What's his name? Uh, 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 he's in. Come on, dark black hair. He's like the singer guy who's wild.
What? Is he
What
in a
was it?
band?
Ian Savon. What's his name?
Ian Savonius?
What band was he in?
The makeup and
Yes.
yeah.
I was in a elevator with him in London, him and me, and he looked at me and I looked at him and he's like, "Hey man, you're in that band that I saw earlier." I'm like, "Yeah, you're that dude that I obviously can't remember right now." He's like, "You're pretty good. How did you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "I don't know how to do it either." And that was it. So,
There's the elevator pitch.
yeah.
Listen to me because I don't know how to do it either. Um,
Yeah.
all right, man. Well, thank you for doing this. This was like such a cool conversation that, like I said, we could probably talk for way longer. And there's so many things that stories and maybe there's another one in us that focuses on some of that stuff if we're feeling up for it. But
Sure.
in the meantime, everybody should check out Scott's music. Um, there's many places to go find it, but a few of them would be scoffsmusic.bandcamp.com uh, and bigmess.bandcamp.com. You can find Scoffs on Instagram at scoffs_music. You can find Big Mess on Instagram at bigmess_music group. And you can also go to underflowrecords.com and see not only some of Scott's stuff as Scoffs and Big Mess there and listen to it, but you can check out the other artists on the label too. So shout out to Adam Fitzgerald. Uh, Shout out to you, Scott Allen. Shout out to this podcast. Thank you for being on it.
Yeah, thanks,
Love
Ryan.
you.
It was
I
a lot of
love you,
fun.
bro. I
Love you
love
too,
you.
man. Love you.
All right. Peace, man.